The woman in white was eating light bulbs. Simon couldn't take his eyes off her. It was horrible. She'd found a cupboard on the third floor corridor about 6 metres from the closet in which Simon was hiding and had begun rifling through its contents. Linens were experimentally sniffed before being idly tossed aside, forming lonely snowdrifts on the floor. A first aid kit had been emptied out as well, its contents separated with a toe and then methodically stamped apart. Now she was opening boxes of light bulbs, shaking the contents out into her palm and holding them up to her face before closing her teeth around their fragile domes. Crunch. It had taken Simon a few moments to realise she wasn't looking for anything in the cupboard. She was just taking things out and destroying them. Why? He didn't know. There was no urgency to her movements, and a strange look of amusement had creased her skin. Unfortunately, that meant there was no indication of how long she was going to stay there, blocking the corridor and Simon's only means of escape. It was pure luck she hadn't caught Simon. A sudden, unexplainable feeling of dread had made him seek refuge in a broom cupboard, cracking the door open a hair just in time to see her appear at the top of the stairs. Maybe he'd heard her without even realising it. Maybe he'd felt her presence or the air her movements displaced. Maybe the animal part of his brain was taking over, all that prehistoric instinct and awareness you just didn't use in the modern world. Simon didn't know or care. All that mattered was that he hadn't been caught. Suddenly, as if she heard the relief in his thoughts, the woman's head jerked to one side. She spat a dry clot of glass out onto the floor and closed the cupboard door slowly, as if listening hard for something. Simon froze, taking his hand off the door so it settled back against the jamb, hiding her from view. His heart pounded louder and louder. Stop it, stop, she'll hear it, she'll hear it. And the floor creaked as she took a step towards him. Don't panic. Don't panic. With the door closed, the woman in white was more of a collection of sounds than a physical presence. Sounds that Simon had to assemble in his head to figure out where she was, a process that was doing nothing for his heart rate. Periodic creaks, her steps, she doesn't care about being quiet, why would she? Followed by a drawling, rasping hiss, her breathing roughened by glass. And a cascade of stiff, mechanical pops that Simon realised in horror were her fingers, clenching and unclenching. Had he not seen her with his own 2 eyes, he wouldn't have believed there was a person out there at all. Just a machine, gaunt and terrible, bearing down upon him. More terrifying than that, though, was the silence. Silence meant he had no idea where the woman was. Creak. Silence. Creak. Silence. Simon closed his eyes and then opened them and cursed the sound of both. Everything became magnified. His heartbeat was thunder, his breathing a storm. The moment stretched maddeningly, and Simon became convinced that he could hear the zzz of his nervous system, the shh of his sweating skin, and finally, beneath it all, the tick of the future becoming the present 1 second at a time. Silence. The door handle began to turn. Simon felt his stomach go concave at the thought of being that close to the woman's hand. Somehow, magically, he didn't scream. Most children would have screamed by now. He was sure of it. Creak. Maybe just a little scream. It couldn't hurt. Thank you.